Hey everyone, Matt here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk you through my process for creating conversion-driven websites. Whether you're a passionate UX UI designer, a marketer, or even a business owner, this video will be for you. By the end of the video today, you'll have a framework to craft websites that speak directly to your target audience, look amazing, and most importantly, convert. Oh, and if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll let you in on a little secret. All right, first things first, what do I mean by conversion? Now, for the purpose of the video today, we're going to define conversion as a user completing a predetermined task or action on a website. Okay, and this could take many forms. This could be simple things like signing up for an email newsletter. It could be filling out a form that's designed to capture leads. It could be completing a purchase on an online store, or it could even be sharing some content on social media. Now, why is that important to have a website that's geared for conversion? If you're a business in 2024, chances are you have some sort of website. And my guess is that website is designed to help your business grow. Looking at things like website conversion is actually a good way to point to how successful a business is doing currently or has the potential to be in the future. And when you really think about it, if you were to increase the number of sales on an online store, that equals business growth, more money, more revenue. If you think about more leads that are being captured through an online form on a website, that's business growth. And that leads to more opportunities for companies to land new clients. So really understanding conversion and its importance in a website context is really, really vital for designers in 2024. All right, let's break down my process and we'll get straight into it. All right, first up, we really need to understand our target audience. And before I even think about diving into Figma or any design tool for that matter, I need to know who I'm designing for. What are their needs? What are their goals? What are their pain points? What motivates them? I like to create, as part of this exercise, an audience or customer value proposition document where I'm able to centralize that persona of the audience that I'm designing for, and then I can begin to list out what are their needs, what are their goals, what are their pain points, how can I address those pain points through this new design. I typically get this information from clients either during a workshop, a collaborative workshop when we start the project. Other times, some of our clients have engaged other larger research agencies to gather that information. So they'll share that with me and I'm able to then digest that and map out these personas accordingly. The more you understand your audience, the better you can design an experience that speaks directly to them, ultimately increasing your likelihood of conversion. All right, so from here, we want to map out the user journey. Designing a website that converts isn't just about making it look pretty. It's about guiding users seamlessly from one step to the next. You want to think about the path that you want visitors to take, whether they're making a purchase, signing up for a newsletter, or contacting you. What I like to do is I like to jump into FigJam and I like to start plotting out the steps that the user will take. This is a really helpful exercise because you're able to visually see everything the user has to do. Okay, so if there's a lot of steps and it's very ambiguous and complicated, you can visually see that on the page. You can start to see, well, maybe this is a bit too complicated for the user, or this is right where it should be. This is nice and simple. I like to present this to the client and get their buy-in early on. It gets them thinking about what is in store for the user, what the experience may look like, and we're able to then have a real solid foundation for the next stage. All right, now we're going to focus on navigation. Now this is where we start to get the site architecture or the information architecture together. You might have heard the abbreviation IA, information architecture. And this is where we begin to map all the pages of the website, the buckets that they live in, the labels across the top, the page names, and start to think about the calls to action, the primary and the secondary calls to action. And this is a really vital step. This is a great way to see a top-down view of your entire website. And coming back to what we said in point one with understanding your audience, we need to start thinking about not only the pages and how we want to group them logically, but we want to think about what labels and what naming conventions will make sense to this audience. We want to be doing our keyword research. We want to be understanding what terms people are searching for on Google. We want to understand the best language to put forward for this audience. Okay, and so once we've got our IA in a good place, we're ready to talk wireframes. Now, wireframes create a visual representation of the core function and behavior of a website. The great thing is with that is we don't need to worry about colors and video and animation or any of that stuff just yet. We can really focus and hone in on the function. I like to wireframe all the critical elements of a website experience, and it really helps me keep that conversion mindset in place when I'm doing this. So in terms of tips, like what I pay close attention to in the wireframing phase would be things like the navigation experience. So we just spoke about the information architecture. So now we're able to then visualize that information architecture in the form of a navigation, whether that's a mega nav or some sort of simple nav bar across the top. Next, I would then pay attention to the calls to action, both the prominence and the placement of those calls to action. Does it stand out? What is the label? Where is it positioned on the page? Is it in the top right? Is it in the center? Beyond that, I usually like to wireframe home pages and key landing pages or service or product pages that are vital as part of that conversion journey, ultimately ending with the conversion experience, whatever that may be. So if we're talking about a business website that is designed to generate leads, I would wireframe out the form. I'd wireframe out all the steps, including what the user sees, how they complete it, and what they see once they complete it. We just want to be thinking conversion, conversion, conversion. All right, if you have time and budget at this stage, something I really like to do is to put together a clickable wireframe prototype in Figma. And this really allows me to get a feel for how the website will behave. I'm able to click through the navigation, I'm able to click through the conversion points, and without even having any sort of color on the page, I can start to get a sense of this experience, how it's going to go, how many clicks do I have to do to complete a task. I can click from page to page and I can identify any friction points that I pick up early on as well. And speaking of friction points, this brings us to an important point in the process, and that is getting validation through user testing. User testing a clickable wireframe prototype with the correct target audience is a really powerful way to understand if we're on track to nailing our conversion goals. Okay, so these tests are great because they're quick to do, and depending on the amount of participants we have, typically anywhere from 6 to 8 for a small kind of focused group, we're able to start seeing patterns early on that may emerge. An example of a pattern might be, out of the 6 to 8 people we tested, 93% of participants could complete the conversion task without any issues. Another pattern might be 8% of people struggled with product labels. This initial user test can be a great point of validation for both us as designers, but also for the client. And we feel that our clients get a lot of value from user testing. We're able to report back early on with the testing results before we even touch design. And this achieves two things. It gives us as designers a boost of confidence to know that we're on the right track, that we've understood the brief, that we've followed the right thing and we've designed for the user. The client side, they're stoked because they know that their product that they're investing money into is actually going to hit home when it goes to market. You don't just have to do wireframe testing, you can do user testing on designs as well. But we find that doing it at this point in the process is a nice kind of line in the sand to establish that we're on the right track before we move on. All right, so now that we've laid the foundation and we've validated the approach, it's time to get creative. Great design is more than just aesthetics, as we all know. It's about functionality too. Here are some principles that I apply to both UX and UI design. So one would be clarity. Okay, so your site needs to communicate its purpose quickly and clearly. People don't have long attention spans, so we need to get to the point and we need to make sure that's as clear as possible. Avoid clutter and make sure your messages are clear to understand. Next would be consistency. So use consistent colors, fonts, hierarchy, rhythm throughout your site to create a cohesive experience. There's nothing worse than a hodgepodge of chaos when you come to a website. It looks unprofessional and it will reduce your chances of users converting. The last one would be hierarchy. So both from a visual hierarchy and also an information hierarchy, make sure people's attention is guided to the most important elements first, whether that's your message, whether that's your call to action after your message, whatever that may be, but make sure you get your hierarchy correct. So we've got a great example here from The Art of Documentary, and I've just loaded up their homepage. And as you can see, we've got a beautiful, impactful hero section with video in the background, content that speaks to what this is, which is the most comprehensive online filmmaking academy. Okay, create powerful and profitable films. That's the headline. Nice and clear, nice and concise. If we're talking visuals around consistency, I can see that yellow seems to be their color of choice, their brand color. And right away, my eye is obviously going up here to this ticker, but next I'm going straight to enroll. That's the call to action. That's the conversion point. Okay, I can also see enrolls up here in the top. And that's really powerful. That's something we like to look at when we're thinking about UX. It's not just about having one call to action. We want to have multiple calls to action available that speak to the user at any given point. And I'm willing to bet if I scroll all the way to the bottom here, that we're going to find another enroll. So we call that top entailing in the industry, where you capture the call to action at the top, you make sure there's correct call to actions throughout the experience where relevant, and then you finish with a strong call to action as well. Here's another one from TechSpeed, and a bit of a different design here, but right away I can see get a free estimate, get started. And this side is, I'm guessing, it's generating leads. So here we are, they've got a beautiful form, and right off the bat, they're promoting that get started and that get free estimate. They both go to the same place, and that's great. So sometimes you can see here, we've got different labels, get a free estimate and get started. It's always great to play around with your CTA language, and something that I like to make sure that we nail is making sure that we're using proper action-oriented verbs and language around get a free estimate, get started. It's very action, doing focused. Here's another one from Cosmos, and this is really interesting. You can see that my eye's going straight up here to the sign up call to action. And that's there. It's a very beautiful site, dark, but my eye goes straight to the top. It's even got a nice glow around the outside. If you can zoom in on that, look at that. So that's really, really catching my attention there. And this site is fancy. There's lots of animation, and there's place for that, as part of your brand, as part of the client's, positioning in the market. You want to actually capture that too. But coming back to the conversion here, like really strong call to action to sign up in the footer as well. So topping and tailing. Let's discuss mobile optimization. It's 2024, and it's no secret that mobile traffic is huge. I'm just going to say it, websites must be fully optimized for all devices. And that being said, it's really good to know what devices your target audience typically use. This can lead to certain emphasis being put on during the design phase on certain devices. So if you know that your audience is primarily a mobile audience or a desktop audience, you may pay more attention to the call to action position and prominence on a phone or on a desktop accordingly. So these are just helpful things to know. Like I said at the beginning, the more you know about your audience, the more you can design a more effective solution and help them convert. To recap, remember to understand your audience, map out the journey, simplify the navigation, wireframe and test the experience, apply solid design principles, and make sure your website ticks all the boxes when it comes to responsive on all devices. At the beginning, I promised that if you stuck around till now, I'd let you in on a little secret. And that is the process we spoke about today applies to any website of any scale or any business of any scale. So what I mean by that is if you're designing a website for a small local business, what we spoke about today absolutely applies. If you're designing a website for a publicly listed corporation, this process absolutely applies. When I was coming up in my career and we'd start landing some really big clients, I used to get a bit scared. I was like, whoa, like this is intense. Like, do I need to change my process? Absolutely not. If you stick to the process, you'll get results for your client, no matter who they are or how big they are. All right, guys, if you found this video helpful, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. As we did cover a lot of information today, if there's anything that you'd like me to clarify or provide more context or detail on, why don't you go ahead and leave a comment down below and I'd be happy to help you out. All right, guys, as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.